Remember, we have partnered up with SteelSeries for the MSI. Use code Paladins20 on the SteelSeries website. Some exclusions apply, but you'll get 20% off your purchase. I use the Arctis 7 headset, and I absolutely love it. I'm joined here on the desk for our last set of the day by none other than Evan Rainday. Rainer, what a set. I mean, we have to move on to our fourth set, but what just happened? Oh, my.
Hard to move on.
Set 3 was absurd. You got to cast it. You experienced it.
I was there.
And that was crazy.
You know, it's like having a bad breakup or a huge fight, with your significant other, and then having to go do like a work task,
Right.
It's just your mind's not in it.
Your mind is removed.
And,
right.
and I apologize in advance because it's going to take me a second to get to the level I should be on this desk because I'm recovering.
Right, no.
I'm in recovery, and I admit it.
The community at large probably is as well. I mean, we knew Penta was a good team, but that was a benchmark for how good of a team they are. And
hell of a bench.
Convincing 3-0 victory here. But, of course, while our minds may still be in set number 3, our bodies and our eyes have to continue on to set number 4, and it's going to be an exciting matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to focus as much as I can. I don't even know who's playing. I honestly don't know who's playing.
NV Virtus Pro.
Okay, all right, there we go. I'm back. I at least have my bearings. I mean,
That's
it's
right.
like a 360. I got turned around, but this match really deserves a lot of great attention because these are two teams that are also heavily in the conversation of title contenders for the MSI.
Absolutely, and they definitely should be. Envy, of course, we'll look at that side first. And sort of in a meta of these hybrid off-tanks, the aggression, you look at Rubu on their side.
You do.
He loves to play Ruckus. He'll play the Khan. He's up there with the best of them. He's very, I would say, just kind of rock solid. He'll have some performances where he really stands out, but he kind of has a high floor where he won't have horrendous horrible games where he ends up losing everything. That's a little dramatic, but the point being, he's a rock solid player that Envy can lean on.
What's awesome is that that's kind of been Envy's thing. They lost it a little bit, they got it back in a big way. They lost it a little bit. We'll see what happens here. They've been a lot more inconsistent over the course of this season than they have in the season prior where they won the World Championship most recently, and that's to be expected. That was just a hell of a run. It's almost impossible to do better than that, and so they're just trying to play their best as much as they can. But you're right, the high floor, a lot of times Envy, at least historically, will give you great, consistent performances. They're one of the better drafting North American teams. They're one of the better kind of minds of that. And, part of it is because of Rubu. A lot of it is because of the ability for Rock Monkey as well to be so consistent in how much he contributes to the team.
It's sort of that 1-2 Rock Monkey random noob punch. And a phrase that I started saying a lot at the beginning of this PPL split was the Rock Monkey effect, because it's one of those things where any given game, any player in the league, I would say, has the potential for it, but Rock Monkey is the one, for whatever reason, and I think the reason ends up being he's a very good player, he's the one who ends up finding the triple kills, the quadra kills, whatever they may be. And it's almost like a sixth man in a way. And a lot of other players in the league have that ability, but Rock Monkey's name always ends up coming up in a lot of these fights. And just the same as you lean on Rubu to really control that front line, Rock Monkey needs to be leaned on to control a lot of the damage.
And he's the way he plays is so efficient because you could see that little moment. How many of you kind of, I'm playing Cassie, you think about it, would have rolled after Spunky down there? Because you're like, I see a kill, I'm going to go take that 1v1. 99% of us were like, oh yeah, give me that. But he just stays up top because he knows that everything else is coming to him. It's the higher percentage play, very much like, how you would have to go through poker and saying, okay, this version of this card is worth betting on, and it's not. And so you really have to take more of a mathematical approach, and he does that. One of the only rare players who doesn't really play with emotion very often, and it's so successful for him.
Well, they're one of the two teams in the league that's been able to beat NIP up to this point, and looking for some consistency. Will they find it today? They'll certainly hope so. Let's jump down to an interview. Gormizer standing by with MetaPusher.
We have karaoke in the Envy booth as we're getting ready here. I saw everyone kind of getting ready, getting warmed up. And, the end of the split, you guys did pretty well. You ended actually on a win, so it was a great way to, I think, close things out. Now you're coming in. You're playing VP, who you played twice so far. How are you feeling about this set?
Feeling pretty good. We split 1-1 with VP during the regular season, so that's not too favorable of a result, but I think we've definitely improved a lot since that first loss, and, the second match we played with him was pretty decisive, so we're definitely really confident.
It was, I think, 4-2 in week 3 that they won, and then you guys came back with a pretty convincing 4-1. So you have, I would argue, the favor because you won the most recent matchup. And they are coming in, as I think we've been describing them, like the hottest and the coldest team. Like, when they play well, they play exceedingly well, but they don't always show up. What at VP are you expecting today? Are they going to put up a really strong fight, or is it a little iffy?
I'm expecting them to put up a strong fight. I think really the first map is honestly going to be the most important. You know, best of fives, getting off on the right foot is really important. And, you know, even in our 4-1 that we recently played, they won the first map. So if they start off hot, they could definitely give us a run. But if we win this first map, I definitely think we are in good track to win the set.
So I guess coming into this, with everything that's been going on, is there anything crazy that you expect to maybe change, considering you're normally playing best of 7s? Does best of 5, other than that first map, like change much, like drafting wise, or is it going to kind of be more of the same, similar map picks, similar champions all around?
I think the map picks are going to be pretty similar. Champion wise, though, things might be different. You know, we've been messing around with leaving Khan and Koa and Atlas and a lot of the OP tanks up, which is a big difference from the previous meta. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, awesome. Good luck in your games, man, and we will send it back to the desk as we get set up to go talk to VP in just a second.
Meta on top of the meta, as always. The Envy boys feeling good down in the booth, I'm sure. And like they said, they've split their sets 1-1 throughout this split, but the most recent one goes convincingly in favor of Envy. Do you think that that's maybe indicative of what we'll see today? Do you maybe give Envy an early edge just on paper?
I honestly don't really give anyone an edge in this matchup because these are two teams that really are land-dependent performers as well. And Virtus Pro specifically is a team that will show up on land or not show up, and it will be like the Bacoa way that was described by Kresnik. You either underperform or you win. And that's how good Virtus Pro can be, how dangerous they can be with a guy like Hecate who's done it so often on Nocturnes Gaming back in those semifinal runs. And so that's what they have to worry about. I think Envy should take the approach that maybe Navi did, maybe they didn't, maybe they had an off day, to Penta. You really have to respect every single opponent to the utmost degree. You do not know what can happen here.
And you said his name, Hecate. He's kind of hoping to act as that counter out to Rock Monkey on the opposite side. They fill, of course, the same role, literally, as far as team roll sheets would go. Honestly, most surprising, I mean, you look at his stats, the win-loss, 35 and 41, just doesn't feel, I don't know, like Virtus Pro deserves, but they've been such a hot and cold team.
That's
and
right.
I say that because it's almost like their big wins, their big performances kind of outshadow some of their losses. Like, but they're a team that, you know, beats teams they shouldn't and sometimes loses to teams that they should beat. And it's sort of this weird dance, but they need Hecate to perform today.
Well, all dances at first are a little awkward, right? Because you're learning, trying to figure it out. I think Hecate is in a great spot to bring so much passion to that damage roll. He really does play with momentum really well, and I think that that's the difference between him and Rock Monkey. They're almost virtually the same as far as their abilities. Now, looking at Vex, he is one of the highest potential support players we've seen. He had a couple of moments this split that just made everyone go, oh my God, that Ice Mines, Genos jump, the ability for him to turn fights around by himself on this role is amazing. But what I don't see from him that I see from healers like Mitau is the consistency. This team has been a little up and down, whereas SSG have been a little bit more consistent. And so if Vex can bring the Vex we all know is possible out there, he gave up YouTube right now. He gave up focusing on his content creation. He really wants to win this MSI. If he can bring his best, this is going to be a dangerous team.
I mean, he's motivated, he's focused. If nothing else, he's a student of the game. You know that this guy, and all of them are. All of these teams practice and learn. They watch VODs, but he's so dedicated anyway. I mean, he has a dedicated YouTube channel, and he just loves learning. He loves playing the game, and that's sort of that support role that we also talk about. You know, they're standing back looking at the battlefield, so you need somebody who has all that in-game knowledge to really control things, and I think he fills that role pretty well.
And Dave, we'll hear from Spuds here a little bit, but I understand how difficult it is to make a decision like that when you've got your personal thing that you're going on, you've got your team, and they seem to connect, right? It's like you're playing Paladins all the time, but it really is important that he took and single-focused his mind on this moment. Right. I think it's going to play big dividends like that. I've yet to see big sacrifices like that not support a person who chooses into them. So really excited to see how they perform today.
Yeah, well, we talked about some of the players. Let's hear how their coach, the Spuds, is thinking. Gormizer standing by.
Well, now we're over in the VP booth, and I came in here. Envy was jamming out. They were singing some Lion King. You guys were jamming out, playing some like old meme songs, getting ready, getting pumped. How are you guys feeling going against this again? I said this to Meta Pusher on the other side, but you played Envy a couple times already. Like, you know this team pretty well. How do you feel coming into the set?
We feel good. The scrims this week were solid. We feel prepared. Head-to-head, 1-1. Yep. Let's break the tie.
And that's, I think, the other thing to look at. You know, in week 3, you guys were able to win as a 4-2. And week, I believe it was 10, it ended up being a 4-1 for Envy. Do you think them winning more recently is going to have a bigger impact? Or do you think that kind of helped you in preparations for this? You know what exactly they're looking for in a set?
I feel like we understood why we lost that set, which is the biggest thing when you lose, right? You learn from it. But overall, I don't think it really matters if we lost first or second. I don't think anyone has a ton of momentum going into this. It should just be whoever comes out faster.
So this is going to be the one I was telling you. I had a couple questions prepared, and this is the one you won't like. Last time you were in the booths, it was a 7-game set. It was an awesome set, but you end up falling down to Kanga, and it was kind of a rough way, I would say, to end the season. So what did that do, like, in contributing to how you want to perform at MSI and kind of the grind behind the scenes for the last week and a half?
I mean, the whole second half of that split was kind of not good, you know. But we think we have righted the wrongs. We're confident going in, so hopefully we can pull it out, yeah.
Well, I'm feeling a different level of confidence in that answer and what I was hearing right before. But either way, I think you guys are going to be able to give us a good show. So thank you and good luck in your games. Let's get it back to the desk so we can get this kicked off.
Thank you, Gore. Cool, calm, and collected Spuds down in the Virtus Pro booth. It's an interesting point he made because we kind of talked about how Envy had sort of a roller coaster start, but they've been trending upwards, feeling a little bit more consistent towards the end of it. And Virtus Pro are kind of the opposite, where they came out swinging, had some good wins, but then the consistency got a little shaky towards the end. They didn't like lose out towards the end of the split or anything like that, but some cracks in the armor started to show a little bit.
Yeah, and I think what you're indirectly kind of asking here is like, what's better, to go into this on the upswing or the downswing, right? Obviously, a lot of people would say downswing, but what I think is interesting is anyone who's ever been down and out, who has that, you know, if you're a competitor and you've lost a game bad, one of the things we used to say in our soccer practices, we would say, a loss, the next thing you want to do is get out on the field again.
Sure.
It's like, dude, I have to wait a whole week to get back on the field. Virtus Pro could bring that level of like, hey, man, we've not been doing great. This is freaking what we've been waiting for, a chance to prove ourselves. And they bring one of the most truly international lineups in the entire Paladins esports scene, with Brett Marsh being our first map here. And I think that this is the chance to prove that it is an experiment that is working. You know, this is the ultimate test.
It is truly the ultimate test, but it's time. It's game 1. It's Bright Marsh, Torvald, and Atlas. Those have been pretty much unplayable up to this point just because they've not been let out. We have seen a couple Torvalds. The effectiveness has, that's been left to the players to decide, some good, some bad.
It's great day one.
Tends to be that third flex. I think that's smart, targeting not only a strong champion, but maybe making Fasheko a little bit more uncomfortable, because that's another matchup you kind of have to look at in this. We didn't highlight it necessarily pregame, but Random Noob is a very comfort champion-based player, and Fasheko in many ways is as well. So making sure that Random Noob gets comfortable in some of these games, I maybe look towards a Drogos or something similar, maybe a Bomb King here on Bright Marsh. I think it's important for Envy to look at.
I think it will be an interesting kind of mind game, because with the prevalence of how good Leon is right now, it's hard to bet on airborne blasters the same way that you normally would.
Sure.
But Random Noob has made adjustment after adjustment on the different champions, and one of the big ones has been Maeve. And Maeve has come in very appropriately into this meta, where she's not always gone to, just like Eevee. It's not always what you pick up. Sometimes you'll first pick a Con, sometimes a Torvalv, sometimes a Genos. But if you can, they're performing really well for nearly everyone who picks them up. And so it's a serious threat to consider.
I can get us out of here alive.
Barrack and Ash have sort of honestly risen to the top, where, you know, Con normally slots into that fourth ban, but when he's picked, the enemy team tends to answer back with one or the other, and in this case, both, because they're two champions that can duel out and sometimes win against Con. I think the overpower is a really big driving force on why Con is so good.
Yeah.
But we've kind of seen some inconsistent overpowers over the course of this weekend.
Yeah.
And it's almost seemed like more misses than hits in general, not even just one specific matchup, but it's not been as automatic as you might hope.
100%.
So that's one big thing to look at. I assume that'll be Rubu on the Con. He'll have his hands full with the Barrack Ash on the opposite side. Tulki, of course, maybe an Inara coming through for him later on. Very comfortable, but getting Rock Monkey on this Cassie, I think is a good start for Envy.
I think it is a great start, and I think this is something that...
There's your Mave.
You know, when you look at Envy, it fits right in, and when you're not really feeling a Drogos, BK's been in and out. It's Bright Marsh, great map for him, but he's just been in and out. I think the mobility is just more valued at this point. It's not so much of a sit-back meta. There's a lot of champions who can get to the BK and then get away, which is why Maeve is a little bit better to take rather than play against, and so she raises higher in the draft hierarchy. VP now, really good front lines for them.
Yeah.
This is exactly where, you know, they're going to feel comfortable kind of setting up for Doe and for Puleule. And the idea is that Sadak, Hecate, they were on the same team, forgive me. Hecate is going to have his pick of the litter right now.
Yeah,
he's got
absolutely.
Leon available to him. And there's also a lot of flexibility to, if you see some craziness from Fish, will Pip be in the mix? This is something I'd like definitely keep an eye on, especially on Bright Marsh.
Yeah, Simsalu in our last matchup showed what Pip can do. Normally we're used to talking about Bittner playing the Pip. Such a potent champion. If you get a good player on that Pip, really changes things around. Liana is going to come through here for Hecate. Again, the word potent, I think, comes to my mind when you look at that. It's a champion where some tweaks have been made. It's much more niche where a comfortable player can still play a Leon to carry potential. And you know, Bittner showed a little bit of that earlier today. It's not as mainstream.
Showed that. We gotta show some love to him. He was unbelievable. Best Leon of the tournament, I think.
And I wouldn't disagree. I wouldn't disagree at all. And you put a Genos mark on top of that. Hecate has the potential here to change this game around. This Rock Monkey Cassie versus Hecate Leon duel is going to be some fun. I'm excited to watch how it all plays out.
I feel like this actually is in favor of Envy right now. I think that Rock and Random Noob on these champions, it's just a really dangerous setup. And Tolkien just doesn't make mistakes. He's just one of those guys that doesn't make mistakes. And he may have an underwhelming day. He may not be as aggressive as he can be, but he is not that guy that's going to consistently miss overpowers or make incorrect decisions for his squad. I mean, I could see a Pip here. I really could. You could also...
I think it would make sense. I mean...
You could see a Drogos from Fish as well, because it is in his wheelhouse also. But, I mean, this last pick, I think Pip really does well against both of these front lines.
I mean, Inara, highest health pool in the game, suddenly doesn't matter if you get smacked with an evil mojo if the ultimates are swinging around. It's going to be the Bomb King instead for Fasheko.